Hi, thanks for joining me today. Have you got a stepchild that really misbehaves badly? Their behaviour is nothing short of outrageous and appalling, and you don't know what to do about it. I post once a week, so subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell and I'll let you know every time I post. I always think it's helpful to view behaviour as a form of communication. You can see it in everybody. And if you're trying to manage a child whose behaviour is outrageous, is rude, is difficult, is unmanageable, to observe it alone can tell you so much about the strength of their anger, the inappropriateness of what they feel, what they're feeling, how unjustified they think the world is, how they feel as though they have to fight for everything, how the only way that they get noticed is if they are incredibly rude because then everybody focuses on them. If you just observe poor behaviour in children, it's extraordinary how they are using their behaviour to do things like attract attention, and they don't mind even if it's negative attention. Negative attention is better than no attention. So they will be as difficult and as bad and as unmanageable as they have to be. As they have to be to get the results that they think they are wanting from it. Now, it's all very, very unfortunate, this, because when you have a stepchild who is prone to unacceptable behaviour, then putting it right is going to take quite a lot. So what can you do and how can you approach this problem? The parent is often not wanting to go into conflict with their child because they don't want to fall out and they don't want there to be problems. They want to get the better behaviour by indulging the child more. They feel the child will respond better. Now, what I would suggest is that it's not a question of either being nice or nasty to the child. I'm not talking here about introducing such things as punishments and difficulties and making it more difficult for the child. This child who is behaving so badly is screaming for help. They are desperate. They desperately need somebody to see something from their point of view. I'm suggesting what you do is you have a meeting with the child once you've had a meeting with your partner and agreed some parameters, and talk to the child about what they'd like life to be like in your home when they visit. Talk to them about what they'd like to do, how they'd like to spend their time, what they'd like to do with their parent alone, anything that they'd like to do alone with you, their step-parent. How can things change in this home for it to be better for the child? Have a meeting. Now, the child might be totally unruly, not agree to settle down to a meeting and at the meeting come up with the most outrageous suggestions, like things like, I just want to be angry and I want to ruin the household and I want to muck things up and fight. They may say that. But if they do, then I always feel at least they've got it out and they've said it. I mean, they might be saying to themselves, I'm so angry I have to go and visit my step-parent and my parent. And yet, if you give them a forum, a meeting, where they can say, I'm so angry, I don't like coming here, that's much better out than them just behaving as though that's how they feel without actually being able to say it. I know it's uncomfortable for you, but it's still better to have that conversation out. So you feel really angry when you come around here. So you want to fight, do you? Tell us more about that. Tell us how you're feeling. Tell us, where does this come from? And what would, just get them to talk it out. Because once they have, then that calms them down. It's a bit like, when you're angry about something and then, it all gets pent up inside you and you're furious and it's keeping you awake at night and you're still angry about it the next day. But the moment somebody says, well, let's sort this out. What do you want? What do you want? And then you can feel as though you've got it out of yourself and you've said your bit and there's something a bit more constructive going on now. So use these meetings, even if they're appalling. Have them when the child is behaving badly quite regularly, once a fortnight. Start every visit with a meeting, or once a month, or once every half term, or once every term and beginnings of holidays. However frequently you feel you need to have these meetings to get the child to talk rather than behave badly. Because what you're trying to do is to get them to voice and express how they're feeling, and so you can meet some of their needs without them actually having to use their physical strength and voice in the sense of shouting and expletives and being nasty. They can then begin to explain how they feel to you, and then things should calm down a bit. So if you do get them to a meeting, then this is the best time to talk about how things in the household should be. And it's best to not try and do it from your perspective, but do it from their perspective. So how would you like, when you first arrive here, well, how would you like it to be? Would you like to spend some time with dad, or time with mum, or time with stepmum, stepdad, or would you like to have time to play with your siblings for a little bit? Get them to talk about how they'd like the process to be. And then during that talk, say, so for it to be the way that you would like it to be, how would you like there to be sort of general rules so that we can abide by them for you and you can abide by them for us? So, for example, if you're wanting to play with your siblings, one of the things about making play with your siblings nice would be to not be rough with them. Okay, so that's one of the rules. Don't let's be rough. And rough means pushing, shoving, hitting, tripping up, poking, whatever it happens to be. And you get these things talked about and out into the open. And things can be pretty bad. They can say, well, I want to really, hit them or something. And you have to say, well, then we can't have that as one of the things that you can do. Then you can't play with your siblings if what you're wanting to do is hit them, is it? So maybe we can think of something else, and whatever it happens to be. It's a long old journey, and I can't sort of predict the conversation. Just do it from the child's focus. So don't come in and say things like, so one of the rules is no physical hurting. So no hitting, punching, all of these kinds of things. Get it more to be, so if you want to have a nice time in this house, one of the things I think we all need to do is to be careful not to hurt other people. And do it that way round, and then not hurting other people falls out into being not punching and hitting for anybody. And that means you too. So then once you've got the rules in place, you then have the rewards. One of the things about bad behaviour is it's often used to get attention by the child. So what you've got to do is stop giving them attention for bad behaviour. You have got to stop giving them attention, which is what they're wanting, which is why they do it, for bad behaviour. Instead, only give them attention for good behaviour. And, you know, sometimes you can't ignore bad behaviour, especially if it's dangerous and they could hurt themselves or somebody else. But it needs to be managed swiftly and completely. So you go over to them where they're creating a fight and lift them off the fight, or you take their implement away from them, or you address them and say, this isn't allowed, stop it. But you make as little as possible of it. What you make a lot of is when you catch them doing stuff right. And this means a lot of effort from you, because you've got to notice it. It's very easy to notice bad behaviour, which is why they do it, because it gets your attention. It's much more difficult to notice when things are quiet and things are nice and things are pleasant and they're behaving. But your job, when you have a difficult child that's misbehaving, is to notice those good times and make the most of them. So you really go a ton on how nicely they're behaving, how well they're behaving. You reward that behaviour. You say, you've done so well that I'm going to read a book of your choice right now with you to reward you for that. Or I'm going to take you out into the park or the garden, and we're going to play some cricket, or whatever it is. You need to reward the good behaviour, because what you're currently doing, if you're getting bad behaviour, is probably rewarding that bad behaviour by calling attention to it too much. What I'm trying to say here is that bad behaviour is communicating to you a message, and what you have to do is get to the message that they're trying to communicate. It does take effort and it does take time, and it's not easy, especially as the child's poor behaviour could in part be coming from the other place that they live. So it's not just you that's being an influence on the child. But my recommendation to you is to give the child what they need, but not in a kind of needy way. Go for it. This needs managing. And dare I say it, poor behaviour is not a child's fault. We run sessions, workshops, we have an email response service, we write booklets. You can find links to our social media and website in the description box below.